Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's morning musing is the power and problem with groups and leaders. I'm doing a series of daily morning musings, and I'm using posts from my blog, Adventures in Density and Effort, as inspiration. Now, I wrote these a few years back, and the world has completely changed since then. So if I encounter anything that seems out of date, I will interrupt myself and give you the most recent information. At the end, I will summarize the topic based on what's going on in the world today. Also, I have some special offers, so stay tuned to the very end to see what they are. The power and problem with groups and leaders. Group energy can be very helpful. Joining a group of like-minded people can both validate your reality and help move you forward on your path. Groups can be supportive when dealing with life's difficulties. Groups can also help accelerate your growth, opening doors to new possibilities you may not have discovered on your own. Leaders can be positive influences. They're boldly going where you haven't gone before, providing an example of how to do it. Leaders can be inspiring, encouraging you to bring out the best in you. And sometimes groups and leaders just seem to be wonderful, but they lead you down a garden path instead. The flowers and shrubbery look beautiful, but you're in a backyard and not on your own path. Sometimes initially, groups and leaders provide you a boost. They raise you to a new level of growth. They help you through a transition, and that's as far as they're meant to go for you. In the past, we had to band together in groups and follow leaders for survival. You were expected to stay with them for your entire life. In terms of countries, politics, and religions, you were expected to follow the same groups and leaders as your parents. In terms of employment, you were expected to stay in the same career, the one you studied for, until you retired and they gave you a gold watch. In terms of family, you were expected to stay in relationship with all your family of origin members and stay married to your original spouse and in contact with your offspring. Of course, society has changed. People are expected to switch jobs every 2 years nowadays. People who stayed loyal to one employer have been rewarded with being laid off because the business collapsed or their position was outsourced and the loss of their 401k. In terms of family, people have woken up to not tolerating abuse. You don't have to stay in relationship with all your relatives. Marriages rarely last a lifetime, and children and parents change. In terms of personal growth and spiritual development, groups are meant to be outgrown. If you are truly growing, you can only follow the leader so far. We are stepping into a time of increased consciousness. We're being expected to take more inner responsibility. We need to align with our own inner wisdom. It's important for you to maintain your own seniority when it comes to groups and leaders. Trust your inner BS meter. Stay true to yourself. I like the slogan, take what you like and leave the rest. You don't have to buy everything being told to you. All religious and spiritual teachings are being filtered through a human understanding. Human beings are fallible. Therefore, what they say can't possibly be 100% truth. Interpret things for yourself. Put it into your own words and language. I believe we're stepping into a time where we have to blaze our own trail. We can't follow just one path and not one made by someone else. We all benefit from multiple tools in our backpack. At the same time, don't diss your stepping stones. These groups can help you transition from one experience to the next. Appreciate them. Even the ones that seem to be dead ends, they were learning experiences. Those leaders that turned out to be fallible, who were communicating through their own distortions, were sharing the reality they believed in at the time. It can be tough knowing when to evolve to the next level. We settled into comfort zones because they're familiar, not because they're comfortable. If you're feeling cramped, if you're questioning everything, if someone or something is completely against your personal values, it's okay to move on. Staying within one group, following one leader, sticking solely with the precise teachings and not varying from them, is like taking ballet lessons from the same teacher for years and years and never stepping outside the classroom to dance. You need to put the teachings into practice and make them your own. You need to embody what you've learned and have it move you to the next level. Jesus said, "What I do, you can do also." His disciples went forth and performed miracles. They just didn't get the same publicity he got. Abraham Hicks talks about your internal guidance system, and I've talked to you about being essence, consciousness, greater than your body personality. You don't access your internal guidance system by looking at someone else's. You don't align with your essence by looking outside outside of yourself. You are consciousness. You not only can access the cosmic internet, you are the cosmic internet. So this week, separate the wheat from the chaff. Drop what isn't working for you. Have a lot of conversations with your inner self. Take your inner self for walks or journal, blog to your inner self. Let your inner voice take prominence inside your head. Try this for a week and see what happens. And leave me a comment below when you do, because I love to read your comments. So one of the things running through my head as I'm reading this is the current state of the world and the huge dichotomy that's going on. I was raised a Republican from a multi-generations of Republicans. I was baptized in the church that Abraham Lincoln attended. And I've been reflecting on this a lot because what's represented now is nothing that either of my parents would have voted for. And I do remember when I started voting in the 1980s, my mother had a problem with a particular candidate and she was going to vote independent. And I just wonder what she would have done nowadays. So I look at it through that lens where you're seeing in the United States a party completely collapse and be taken over by extremists that are not in integrity with the original focus of the party. But here's the other thing, because I have learned a lot about American history. I didn't grow up in this country, from a historian called Heather Cox Richardson. She's an American political historian, and her specialty is from the Civil War up to present time. She's written books on the Republican Party. So it's really interesting because the Republican Party was brand new when Lincoln became president, and their values are very much like the current Democrats. The people who started the Civil War, the people who were invested in slavery as an economic option, were the Southern Democrats. So I think about my parents, and especially my mother's really strong opinions about the Democrats, and this was during the time of JFK, was from back then, and they had not updated their perceptions. But of course, they also had just come out of the Eisenhower era, who was, I would think, the last true Republican. Let's transcend politics and put this into a bigger perspective, except this does talk about the groups that you belong to that no longer fit. So I was raised a Republican, and in my 20s and until I was about 34, I voted Republican without question, because I also didn't know anything about politics, so I never looked at what was going on after you elected them. And it wasn't until I was sitting at home one day with two little kids who had chickenpox, and I was waiting for my husband to get home from work to be able to go vote. It occurred to me that the person I would have voted for, George W. Bush Sr., had just vetoed the family leave bill, and it was like, oh, politics does have something to do with me. From then on, I voted Democrat. And the other thing as well is I was raised a staunch Presbyterian, and I actually think my parents were both originally Methodist, but maybe they became Presbyterian because Eisenhower's Presbyterian, and the church in Washington, D.C. was the one where Abraham Lincoln went. So we were very that kind of religion. And when I hit my teens, I stopped going to church, and I was their third kid. So by that time they were really tired. So I got away with it. The brother ahead of me became a Presbyterian minister. But that interpretation of Christianity just didn't resonate with me. And I've evolved a lot. I did rebel when I was like 21, 22 by becoming a Methodist for a year and a half because they had a woman minister, and that was brand new for me. But my spirituality has gone into very cosmic places and a very higher awareness of what's going on in the world. And so what I see going on right now in the United States, and there's reflections in other places as well, but in the United States, we had the Conservative Party being slowly taken over by radical extremists. And the older members, they're the ones who were clinging to the status quo from decades before. And as consciousness, we are evolving, and those things that we felt were solid and real are disintegrating. If you are really attached to those old ways of being, it's extraordinarily uncomfortable right now. Your power source is disintegrating because we no longer are operating on dominance, power outside. It's really more power in the collective. Each one of us is becoming becoming more internally aware of ourselves as consciousness. And that's immense power inside ourselves. It's an interesting combination of an internal resonance, immense consciousness, and a connection with everyone out there. So there's a collective connection going on as well. And we're evolving to the next level. Evolution doesn't go backwards, even though you can look at the stories and the history of the world and it's like, well, what about the Dark Ages? Yeah, but what about what was going on in Asia at the same time as the Dark Ages? So human beings and humanity and consciousness is continually evolving. And we're at a huge breaking point or breaking through point right now for consciousness. There's been an acceleration of greater consciousness coming into form, affecting each one of us individually. This happened a while ago, but Arab Spring, where all these dictatorships toppled. And it was in part because people could communicate to each other through Twitter at the time. We're observing that. If you are noticing or resonating with any of this and you're at a quandary about going forward, take some of the things I've said to heart. Listen to the beginning part of this again, because you as essence are consciousness. There is a lightness. You can also look out into the world and see those who are bringing lightness through, operating with integrity. That's a real thing. They're operating from their own inner sense of what is right, what is fair, what is equitable. And then there's the people who are lying and dominating and are only interested in their personal power to very tragic outcomes that we've already seen. This went to a tangent that no power and problem with groups and leaders. And the other thing is I don't pre-plan any of these. I'm just every day I read a new blog post of mine from this. This is 13 years ago. I have hundreds of blog posts and I committed to at least doing a video every day for this year. I need 365. There's my instant script. If you resonate with these and you like them, please share them with your family and friends. Also, please click the like button and subscribe, because when you do both of those things, it shows the YouTube algorithm to share this with more people. It gets them out to people who really need to see this information right now. If you'd like a free sample of one of my consciousness techniques, click on the link below to the skybox technique. It gives you an expanded perspective of what's going on in your life and in the world and really informs you on the changes that are happening. If you'd like some manifestation techniques, I have a self-study course called Manifesting Money and Miracles. You learn to work with energy that creates both an internal change and completely changes your external reality. If you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. There you can find out about my individual sessions where I take a look at you as consciousness and what's going on in your life today. And I can answer any questions that you might have, whether it's about your relationships, your job, your future, what's coming up, if you're going to make a move, if you're planning to buy real estate. I talk to deceased loved ones, and it's all recorded just for you. I do half-hour and hour-long sessions. So more information's at my website. And if you want to learn how to do this for yourself, Manifesting Money and Miracles is a great preparation for my coaching special where I work with you one-on-one and I give you specifically chosen consciousness techniques so that you can transform your life. So you can find out more at my website, joan-newcomb.com, and I'll see you tomorrow in another Morning Musings.